welcome to another episode of Xbox Infinite. Big one this week, massive one. There's not many games releasing though this week. Not much has come out, so there's not many games to talk about. Kidding, obviously, Starfield's dropped, so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I'm going to get into introductions. Rand, welcome back to the show, man. How you been? How's Starfield?
I've been all right. How you been? Everybody's mic's muted now. It's weird. Everybody's like mute their mics, but like I don't want to say anything yet. You know? So, but it's nice to be on Umbra's podcast again. So I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome.
Wow.
He's going. Yeah,
I welcome you.
Umbra and JediKnightPeter's podcast.
Yes, there you go.
That's better.
that is low. That is low. All right, let me remove Rand quickly.
Okay, later, guys. Let's go.
And Shane Bailey, man, welcome back. It's great to have you back. And if you don't know who Shane is or what Shane does, he runs. I don't know if you run it. What are you doing? Actually, you can tell everyone what is Game On Cancer about. What are we doing here today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me back. Riskit is, excited to be back. We were here. I was here in May on the show for the first time, and good to be back again because today we're doing a fundraiser with the folks at Bethesda ANZ. So I work at Cure Cancer, an Australian cancer research charity. I have a weirdly awesome title as head of gaming and streaming, and I lead everything we do with the gaming community and gaming partners, brands like Bethesda, Xbox, and partners like that. They just hit us up and decided they wanted to run a Starfield fundraiser for the month of September. So anyone can sign up and fundraise to celebrate the launch. And then they're giving away copies of the game, merch, prizes. There's like a $4,000 Starfield PC up for grabs for one lucky person who donates as well. That is limited to Australia, I will remind everyone. So that's why I'm here to help promote the fact that Riskit has kindly jumped on board again to fundraise, which is really exciting. And I'm just excited to be here to talk about Starfield and reconnect with the Xbox Infinite community. So hi to everyone in chat. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic. There's a lot going on around Starfield, not just the game, which is exciting in itself, but there's a lot of talk on Twitter. I spent a lot of time on Twitter because I was at work, so that's what I do whilst I'm at work. I twit. But before we get into that, Infinite, Umbra, welcome back to the show. I'm not going to call it X ever. How's your week been? What have you been up to? How was your show? How'd that go?
Oh, well, it's been great. It's having two shows of mine back to back from Thursday and today. My second starter show here with you guys that I lead. Rand was correct. He's probably going to mute me or something. But listen, my show was actually really short yesterday, but it was fun because we had to hurry up and get it out of the way for the launch of, Starfield, that 7 out of 10 seminal game. But yeah, man, it's actually been a decent week. I'm enjoying Starfield. It's what I've been playing. I'm about 12 hours into that and loving it. And, just happy to be here with you guys tonight. Happy for you and Rand and Shane to be here with us tonight.
Absolutely. Pete, top of the pops there. I can see you on top of the leaderboard. How's your week been? What have you been up to?
Awesome. Can't believe Starfield is finally here. We've been waiting for this game forever. Been talking about this game forever. Finally got to get hands on. Can't wait to talk about it in the show. Welcome, Rand. Welcome, Shane. Let's get into this.
Well, that was quick. It feels like, Pete, that you want to get back to Starfield and that you don't. You don't want to.
No, really.
No?
I don't want a game.
Blue, welcome back. How's your week been? What have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Hello. Hey, chat. About 24 hours ago, I was about the only person that could get into the game, apparently. It would be interesting to know who had the authorization error because it seems like everybody had it. Other than that, I have been just blowing through Fallout 76. Still doing my dailies because the scoreboard is life and I need that Mr. Handy that will bake me cakes later. And I hope eventually Colt can come back and start hanging out with us again and doing some Fallout fun stuff now that all the Starfield hubbub is
I don't know. You
getting down to a wine for you and for Rand as well, right? Moving on to the next thing while the rest of us are trying to blow through the stars and
I guess you
get
know me
hero
so well
worshipped?
because I'm probably am done with Starfield.
Are you?
Are you done with it?
How many hours have you put into that, Rand?
80, 82,
Yeah.
83, something like that.
That's
That's
it?
a lot.
I'm
What do you mean
kidding.
that's it? That's all I wanted. Didn't you guys watch my review where I
Yeah.
explicitly laid out my reasons for playing Starfield?
But you've
Those reasons are
you never
gone.
played Fallout, right? Sorry.
Played
We're
Fall-
getting
I played
totally off
Fallout
track.
3.
Sorry.
Well, that's fine. I'm here, so it's fine for the podcast to get off track. We knew this would happen. Umbra
There you
has, he
Yes, get carte blanche, right?
He's
So-
perfectly fine with it happening during his podcast.
Oh, this is
true.
everyone's getting muted.
Hey,
Oh.
Controlled chaos.
80 hours is a decent amount of time for any game. Maybe
Yeah.
not so much for a Bethesda RPG, but hey, man, you got what you got out of it. I loved your review, by the way. I thought you did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
You,
Thank
but
It was a good review.
Yeah,
I'll
Rand,
give
it
you
was good.
that.
you
I'm
said in the
surprised.
green room that he was terrible at reviews. That's that
What?
was nice. That's what he said.
Wow. Umbra, I guess I'm not coming on your other podcast.
No,
together
he's
again.
talking about Pete saying that, not me.
Oh, Pete said that? Oh, man.
What? No way.
Pete, how could you, buddy?
Look, we get to jump into that first topic, which is Starfield. We're already in it. But there's a couple of things that I sort of want to talk about before we talk about the game. So reviews. Let's jump into reviews. So at the moment, I think Xbox is sitting at an 87 on Metacritic. On PC, it's sitting at an 88. And if you are a fan of OpenCritic, I think it's sitting at an 88 on there. You can correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't checked. But some of the reviews that came out are very, very interesting. So this is my take on the reviews. If you give a game a 7, so if you guys don't know Dan Stapleton from IGN, he gave the game a 7, but what he wrote within his review, one, probably didn't warrant a 7, and 2 was a little bit, I'd say, controversial. I didn't quite agree with some of the things, but I haven't played a lot of the game, so I really can't delve into that. But what I can say is he got a lot of shit for that, and that's cool. Like, people disagree, whatever. If it's a 7, it's a 7. Where I have a problem with Danny Boy, is that he jumped in a space, and his assessment of the game was that the game was very good. That was his exact words. He said that a couple of times. Now, a 7, if you follow IGN's rating and how they rate games, a 7 is attached to a good game. But a very good game gets a score of 8. So I found that disingenuous. I feel like it, and I hate to say this because I hate to be the the persecution complex Xbox guy, but I really do feel like the media, especially IGN lately, and the lead up to Starfield, with them not, putting Xbox in the lower thirds for games that are releasing on Xbox and all that stuff that led up to it, I find that I think there's a bit of bias going on in IGN. I think it's an issue. Rand, do you think that there's a media bias? I haven't heard you speak on this very often.
Like, what type of media bias are we talking about here, Riskit? Are we talking about like people getting together behind the scenes and like this is how we're gonna take down these Xbots and like kind of talking about what they should give certain games? We're talking about like a conspiratorial bias.
No, see, I don't
Illuminati.
believe in that. I
Yeah.
think it's more of an inherent bias that you're going to get when there is a massive market lead from one brand over the other, and you've got two brands in the space that really compete for the same sort of consumer base. And when one has a massive lead, that's going to bleed into the media. And I really think it has. Actually, I'll add, before I go back to your end, I'll add, like, going through Dan's timeline and having a look, doing a little bit of research, he's been heavily against the ABK acquisition. And that, to me, is a bit of a telltale sign of someone who has bias towards PlayStation. And I say why, because I am against consolidation. I don't want the industry to consolidate. I think it's bad for business if it goes too far. But with the ABK acquisition, it was pretty obvious if you look at the numbers and you look at how Xbox would land after acquiring ABK, that it's going to create competition. It's going to put them in a position that's more on an even keel, and that's never bad for competition. So I think if you're out there talking about it's damaging to the market, it sort of shows a bit of bias that you can't look at things objectively. Sorry, Rand, to cut in there, but yeah, I think it's inherent.
So what you're saying is essentially Dan let his feelings for Xbox and his feelings for ABK color his judgment of Starfield to the point where he thought he had to give a game a low rating because he's a PlayStation fan. That's essentially what you're arguing, correct?
Yeah, whether he did it on purpose is a different.
It would be an unconscious bias, is what you're saying.
Yeah, possibly. He might have done it on purpose.
Okay.
He
So
seems like-
so even though we have an Xbox Illuminati, which you're a part of, right? We have the photos.
Yeah.
We have the proof.
Yeah, that was paid
You don't think there's a like a reviewer in Illuminati either, where they're like sending messages back and forth about like, you know, to take down these Xbox games. Let's all give this game a 7. You know,
do I think they take a dump on Xbox behind the scenes? Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean, hell, Umbra takes a dump on Xbox behind the scenes. I mean, why wouldn't
that was
why-
supposed to be behind the scenes secret?
Yeah, I mean, people talk behind the scenes. I'm sure those guys all talk shit about Xbox behind the scenes. I wouldn't doubt it. I think individuals can have a bias for sure. We're all biased towards something. The question is, do you let that color what is supposed to be your opinion or impartial review of something, or do you let your biasness against something or for something change it? Like, you know, I have a bias for Xbox. I ain't gonna deny it, right? But when I play a PlayStation game, I'm not thinking I need to review this lower because it'll help Xbox. Like, that has never crossed my mind. But then again, I'm just one person. I'm just also a lowly YouTuber. Maybe that does happen in other places or whatever. And I've never had the thought of, hey, I need to increase my review of an Xbox game to help Xbox out, right? Like, I shit on Redfall.
Mhm.
I crapped all over Crackdown 3. I got in trouble for Crackdown 3, if you guys remember, for what I said about it.
Yeah, what happened there?
Like, what do you mean? What happened behind the scenes with that?
Well, how did you get in trouble? Because there was this. I don't think this is something that's common knowledge.
Oh, no, it's common. I've talked about it on Xbox too, but you know, if you guys recall, there was that first time they revealed the gameplay of Crackdown 3 after 3 years, and they let people play it at like Comic-Con or something, but nobody knew what they were doing. That made the game look like ass. And I was just like, what are you doing, Xbox? Like, how could you be doing this? I was like, Sony shows their games as these immaculate presentations to make it seem like it's these huge things everybody should care about, and you're just like, hey, play Crackdown, and nobody knows what they're doing, and it makes the game look like just unfun and dumb. And I went pretty hard on them. And I know, like, internally, the video got passed around, and there was meetings about it, and, you know, things were said about me, things were said to me from people at Xbox, and, you know, they didn't appreciate somebody that was allowed to go to E3, that they let go to E3 and hit 1 million gamer score. They basically were like, how dare you bite the hand that feeds, you, essentially, kind of thing, right? So, you know, because back then I was like, I wasn't, you know, I didn't have a big channel or big podcast or what have you. So it was out of the kindness of like Phil Spencer's heart that he's like, hey, you're a friend of mine. You want to come to E3 and do this? Absolutely. So maybe they thought I would always just be like, Xbox, rah, 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 everything's great and perfect.
So if you don't know, I sort of know the end of this story. So then Phil cut you a check. You retracted.
Phil cut me a check.
You retracted
I bought
the
my
video.
Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Yep. We know how that story goes, but no, I mean, there was just, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm coming at this from my own perception of like biasness, where I know it doesn't affect me whatsoever. Like, I have no problem saying, you know, God of War, you know, was a 10 out of 10 for me. Right? I can say that because it's just like, that's what I feel. And I don't need to come out here and say, well, God of War is actually an 8 and sucks because Xbox needs some way to fight against it. Or, oh, you know, Redfall is actually 9 out of 10 and it's actually really good. And everybody who says it's bad is just a bunch of losers to fight against the injustice.
You have
So
integrity, is what you're saying, and I think we all can relate to that. You know, Riskit is a man of high integrity. Pete, Holly's a high integrity woman. Shane is a high integrity man. I myself are better than all of you guys combined. So absolutely,
I was waiting.
And he's humble.
no, seriously,
he's
just
a
to
humble
say, I
man.
think it's integrity, but I think that when it's you, Rand, and you're not a part of some conglomerate where you have relationships with people like a Sony, for instance, well, maybe you do feel a way. And I think there is such a thing as implicit bias that a lot of us are not cognizant of, and implicit bias happens automatically. And my thing is, I don't think the Dan Stapleton guy hates Microsoft, because I was talking back and forth with him earlier about his review, and I just don't think his words jive with reality of what he talked about in that space. Because he had a space the other day, IGN and him and somebody else from IGN, and I'm like, he's giving all these superlatives and how he can't wait to get back to the game and do a new game plus. And then you say, but how does that jive with a 7 out? I don't play 7 out of 10s for 80 plus hours and then go back for a new game plus. I don't think anybody here does. So that to me seems weird. And now 7 is good, quote unquote, right? But we all know, and even Stapleton knew if you watched Unlocked, he said, yeah, I gave it a 7 out of 10. He's smirking the whole time. And he says, I gave it a 7 out of 10. And listen, I know people don't, they think a 7 out of 10 is bad, but a 7 out of 10 is actually good. Yeah, but you know that. So you know that giving it a 7 out of 10 is going to get you a certain reaction. And people think that just because they're a journalist doesn't mean they're going to act a certain way or do something with less integrity to pull hits and engagement to them. I disagree. I think we've seen more than enough proof of people in the media or people in general that we would think wouldn't be a part of that nonsense, like a Grums, for instance, who will absolutely partake in that to get engagement, click engagement, and things like that. Our IGN needs click engagement. They need people to pull through. If you look at his reviews for his review on YouTube for his Starfield review, the man has to have like 1 million hits by now, comments and all. You go to his review on IGN, people were in that comments in by the 20s of thousands, commenting back to back to back, and that's exactly what IGN wanted. He is the head of reviewers there at IGN. US at least, and he picked this for himself to do. You couple that with what he said about Xbox and their consolidation in the past, and I think he has a bias against Xbox and Bethesda. Personally, I can't prove that, but that's what I feel. Combined of what I've played in the game with the 12 hours I've done, I just don't see it as a 7 out of 10. Now, to be fair, everybody's opinions are different on these games, but I look at what he's also played with Fallout 4, and that's a 9.5. And I'm like, well, this is much in the same vein of that in some ways. And I can see how like some of the menus and things like that are bothersome and cumbersome because of how they operate, and even how you like handle your weaponry and everything. Some of it is kind of
and the title
clunky.
screen. Title screen's pretty bad.
Right. According to Grums, the title screen too. That's a 5 out of 10 now for the game. But I can't see that and be like, yeah, 7 is justifiable. Not without some bias in my mind personally. But then again, I'm biased. You see what I mean? But like you, Ran, I don't trash games just because it's not my preferred platform. Yeah, the God of War for me was a 9 out of 10. I didn't think it was a 10 out of 10. But I agree with you. Like,
let me ask you this then. Let me objectively ask you a question. If Atlas Fallen was a PlayStation exclusive, would you have given it a 6?
I don't know if I've ever even played it because I probably would have been too busy playing. I would be honest. And not that because I wouldn't have liked it, but because I would have been too busy playing something on Xbox, just because I'm stuck in that ecosystem more often than not. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest issue. Because even like Final Fantasy 16, which I do want to play, and I actually hyped it up on my Twitter. You know, people were like, it looks lame. And I was like, no, it looks good. Like, you know, the combat, I love Devil May Cry, for instance. So when I saw Final Fantasy 16, I'm like, that looks like Devil May Cry to me. I'm like, I want to play that. But then you got the traditional Final Fantasy fans, like turn-based style and such, and they're like, get this trash out of here. So I get it, you know what I mean? But I'm not the type that's going to hate on some game just because it's PlayStation or Nintendo. That's just not
Stapleton has been in the industry forever, for probably over 20 years. Is, like you said, Umbra, the director of reviews at IGN. Do you think that he's put out this 7 to get us talking about it, to get us talking about IGN, to get them to go to their Twitter following? Because let's face it, IGN and that mainstream media is dying. I go to SkillUp, ACG, Randall Thor, Colt Eastwood to get my reviews because I I trust those guys. I trust those guys' integrity. And, the reviewer base of IGN, if you go into the comment section, is mainly PlayStation. And so they get a benefit from this. They get a benefit from, shitting on Xbox games. And if you look at Dan Staples' favorite games, Fallout 4 is listed as one of his favorite games of all time. There's not that much difference in the way this game plays, the way this game is, shown, like, to Fallout 4. So I just can't see how that's one of his favorite games of all time, and then he's given this a 7. And then I go to other reviews of IGN this year. Exoprimal got an 8. Immortals of Avium got an 8. Gran Turismo 7 VR got a 9. I think there's definitely some bias there. That's just my opinion. But and this
Pete,
is my
it's
question:
interesting,
is it
though.
bias or is it clickbaity?
Blue.
Well, I don't like, you put an interesting point, like they're trying to, maybe they are using it to drive traffic to them, but I don't think that that's what they're doing. But we are at a really interesting time for media on the whole, right? But particularly in gaming media. Like just what Pete said, I watched about half of the Unlocked that they released yesterday morning after the embargo lifted. And, Unlocked is difficult to watch these days. And it's a real shame because I used to watch it every week nonstop. But what I did was turn it off because I was like, well, I only have so much time and I would rather go watch the reviews from ACG. I watched Rand's, I watched Colts, I watched, and like I go and I watch the ones from people that I feel have more
trustworthy.
attention, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, they have this label of journalist, right? And that's fair and that's fine, but they're not trustworthy anymore. And I can't say one in particular. It's, like Dustin, right? Like I always feel like he's an entertaining guy, and especially on his private channel, right? But he's always pretty fair. And there's some other people I do really like, Miranda, but we have seen some interesting things happening where these journalists, like you would have never seen, I don't know, pick some high fancy name from CNN or NBC or something like that, fighting back and forth with people about a news report they did if somebody disagreed with it, right? Like they wouldn't be calling people names, they wouldn't argue with them. They don't do that because there's an integrity that comes with that job. And the interesting dynamic with what we see with writers at both of these major companies is that the personalities and the talent that are writing and doing these videos are Twitter raging, right? And saying pretty unprofessional, inappropriate things to people. And I'm not saying that anything that's been said to them is appropriate, justified, warranted, or something that should ever be said. But if you are a quote unquote journalist, right, there's some integrity to that. And like Umbra was, going back and forth with Dan on Twitter today. And not that Dan was, outrageous or anything that he had done, but he's not the only one at IGN that's, firing back at people with all cylinders. And it's really turned a lot of gamers to, look for the people that they feel like they can trust more.
Yeah, I absolutely 110% agree with that as well. And it's not just one person at IGN, which is the problem. Stella Chung earlier in the week, she is actually on Podcast Unlocked. Very much an Apex player, but she released something earlier in the week before the embargoes lifted for Starfield. She said on Twitter, "I've not played Starfield yet and am only posting the opinions I've been saying on Podcast Unlocked on streams for posterity now, so we can see how I feel after Starfield launches and I get hands-on time in. Again, these are my initial opinions." And she said, "I think Starfield's very okay. and it's trying to do too many things, so it won't be able to deliver on all promises. The world doesn't look unique. The story seems to be an afterthought to the game, and one thing I love from Bethesda games are the plot lines and hidden lore throughout the world. I don't see a lot of that in Starfield, and instead I see a lot of other extracurricular activities that seem to distract from the main story. Have you ever played a Bethesda game before, Stella? Anyway, the gunplay looks bland, and I still really dislike the enemy name UI and health bars being right above their heads versus being on top of the screen like in Fallout. I think it'll be a fine game, but I don't think it's going to be mind-blowing. And the players saying, oh, but the modders will save it, make me a bit annoyed. A game should really be solid on its own without the help of modding. Modding is a really fun addition that should elevate the content of a game rather than fix or bring it up to player expectations. This is before review embargoes were released. And here's the issue that I have with this. So one, making those distinctions that are very specific about a game before release is probably a bit stupid, I would say. Folly, if you like. But also, she works at IGN. It's very likely she's speaking to people behind the scenes. I wouldn't say that this breaks embargo, but I would say this is extremely unprofessional. Definitely something I wouldn't do. And I think Pete said it best earlier in the week, actually, is a little nugget of wisdom that I would definitely adhere to. And it's a great thing. He said they need to stop hiring journalists and then having them game, and instead hire gamers and then have them write. And I think that's probably a bit of maybe some of the issue that's going on at IGN. But Shane, we haven't got your opinion on what's been going on with the discourse and all the controversy around the reviews for Starfield. So do you think that we're seeing a bit of bias in the media? And I mean, it's great for creators because they come to creators like Rand, they come to creators like SkillUp. And SkillUp didn't even get a code, actually, and that's something we're going to get into a little bit later. But Shane, what do you think? Is there a bit of bias happening?
I think there's probably a bit of bias in everyone, like some of the others have touched on. So it's up to, obviously, professional reviewers to try and go in as untainted as they can into any review, and then just obviously present their findings. I don't necessarily have a problem with Stella's posting of that, because I mean that's just her painting her perspective of the game before she plays it, in much the same way that we'd end an E3 or summer showcase and say, based on what I've seen so far, this is my impression of the game. Like, for instance, we might say, I'm just trying to think of a game that's been like revealed recently. Let's say Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2. It's like, oh wow, loving what they're doing with the animations. I think that looks cool. Will they change it up enough to make it, worthwhile worthy of, the sequel, the numbered sequel? We'll wait and see. But that's like, we will wait to make that judgment on launch day, right? But I think it's okay to say, hey, based on what we've seen so far, this is what I think. In the case of Dan, I think everything that's been said so far around bias and against Xbox and obviously for PlayStation is totally possible. I've listened to his review this morning. Watched it on. I didn't read it. I just watched the video version. And look, I've only a couple of hours into Starfield, but I can see how he could justify his criticisms in terms of like the inventory management and the lack of, really comprehensive map design, that sort of thing. Like that can be pretty frustrating, but I suppose it irks him more so than it might others. And so probably that it detracts from his experience more so than anyone else's. Yeah. Well, I do kind of align with you guys is, he's giving it a 7 out of 10, but he's, raring to go on another playthrough and is thoroughly enjoying it. It's like, okay, there's a bit of a misalignment there in terms of, what does a 7 mean to Dan versus what does a 7 mean to everyone else. I do think over the history of game reviewers, outlets have been kind of reluctant to use the full scale. So I like it when we get a greater variance, I suppose, in scores, because it makes for an interesting discussion. I think some of the most interesting reviewed games we've had in the past have been something like Death Stranding, where people are giving it 9s and 10s, but there are other people giving it 4s and 5s. And that discussion is actually really fascinating because it really hits for some and not at all for others. So that's all to say that I don't really value Dan Stapleton's review. It's nothing personal against him. It's just that I've never really aligned with his perspective on titles that I enjoy as well. I just seek out the reviews from the people who align with my own taste. Like for Starfield, I specifically am going to go to Skill Up once he drops his. I'll listen to DLC and Jeff Canada because I usually find that my opinions align with his. And I'll go to Mr. Matty Plays because he's a hardcore Bethesda fan and I really want to know his perspective on the game as well. So, look, is there a bias? Probably. But I think that's natural to anyone in this medium who's enjoying this form of entertainment. So, yeah, I mean, it's all subjective in the end anyway. It's just a shame that obviously someone in Dan's position has slapped this on a 7 and it's caused the hullabaloo that it has. So, yeah, that's kind of my position on the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I think I would agree with that, but there's two I'm going to disagree with. And Alvin put it pretty well. He said if Stella had posted that right after the showcase, and she has said this stuff on Unlocked. I've heard her say, but not in such detail. She has said similar things. But also she did post that just during the embargo period while review codes were out. I believe IGN got 13 different review codes. I don't believe that's right either, personally. But so I think the timing is a little bit silly. Also, as I said to her, I had a bit of a conversation with her on Twitter and a back and forth. And as I said to her, I said, Xbox has traditionally been in third place. They haven't made great decisions at Xbox One. Any of us who have been with Xbox since day one, we got the shit kicked out of us during the Xbox One era. And this was Xbox bringing one home for the team. And so, of course, if you release something like that during an embargo at a time where hype is at an all-time high, I just struggle to understand what she thought was going to happen. She got attacked, and I don't think that's ever right. It's definitely not right to do, attack someone personally. You can absolutely attack their opinion. And that's fine, but I wouldn't be. I don't know. I try not to attack people personally unless they come at me personally online, and then I'm very swami. I don't just generally start talking about their mum immediately. But what I will say is, what was her objective? I think the timing was poor in that. But you definitely sort of brought up a point, and I did want to ask Rand about this because Rand sort of understands how all this works. Now, Grums released a post about reviews and review codes earlier in the week. And this may have come back to bite him, but he said Starfield's reviews will be worthless and the Metacritic score fake. Microsoft and Bethesda are only allowing favorable creators and websites to have review copies. That's not true. This is how AAA tries to game the system by only providing outlets who favor you with copies only to those creators and outlets to get to make money. How? The first posted reviews are the only ones that get high traffic, therefore advertising money. Articles that are even a day late make 10 times less or even nothing. Time is everything. So there is a huge incentive to get early access to copies of the game so that you can be the first one with reviews. This causes another problem, access journalism. If you're a creator or a website, you know you will only get advanced copies, make money if you give favorable reviews. What happens? You get cut off and no more advanced copies. This creates pressure to always give, Jesus Christ, this guy can write a fucking Twitter post. This creates pressure to always give positive reviews and silence criticism. Scores get bumped up. Negatives are pushed to the back of the video and are mild. You no longer have accurate review of the game. Everyone is scared and they will be denied access to the next big game. Microsoft gone full goblin mode on this unsavory marketing tactic for Starfield. Okay, so just on that, I wanted to say SkillUp didn't get a code. SkillUp's one of my favorite creators. Love the guy. He does fantastic reviews. I don't always align with his reviews, but I always think they're extremely fair, and I think the man has a lot of integrity. Rand, another one who has fantastic reviews, and I align with his reviews most of the time, and I also believe he has integrity. ACG, another one. So Rand got a code, SkillUp didn't get a code, ACG got a code. So why? And why did some of these UK guys, outlets, not get codes? And this is what we're going to get into in a minute, but look, what I know, when I went back and watched, I think me and Umbra went back and watched SkillUp's reviews of Fallout 76. So I'm going to say this, and it's a bit of smoke for Bethesda, because it's not actually Xbox that controlled the codes, as far as I understand it, or for what I've been told. SkillUp gave a review of Fallout 76 that I would say was scathing, but fair. He did call Todd a liar about 4 times. And did play Tell Me Lies, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies as a song. I'm sure that Todd didn't like that. But interestingly enough, when I went back through the Fallout 76 review, all of the things that he had pointed out are things that they have repaired or fixed or put into Fallout 76 now, for the most part. Starfield, they had made a point of pointing out a lot of the things that Skill Up had pointed out were an issue in 76. They made a point of pointing these things out in Starfield. My point here, and I say all this to say, I don't think companies should hold back reviews because of negativity, even if it's scathing. I think that Bethesda learnt from Skill Up's review. I think that this creates a situation exactly like Grums is talking about. And PlayStation does it. We know they do. They will blacklist a review site if they give extremely unfavorable reviews. We've heard that a creator went to a press event, wasn't happy with the press event, told PlayStation that they basically wasted his time. He was then black banned permanently as well. So this does happen. I 110% believe this does happen. Whether it happened here or not, I don't know. But I think this is a tactic that does need to stop throughout the industry. You should not be blacklisting reviewers. They are a tool for consumers to help them to judge where they should spend their money. And to have reviewers with integrity, that reviewing games with integrity, and then to blacklist them, I believe Skill Up is one of those people, is wrong. And yeah, that's just my sort of feelings on it. I'm not saying that this happened here, but Rand, I wanted to ask you because there was quite a few sites in the UK that didn't get a hold of a code. Do you think, and we know it was Bethesda, this wasn't Xbox, Bethesda controlled this, but do you think it had anything to do with unfavorable reviews in the past? Or
No? No, I don't think so. I think it was more like Kotaku. I don't think got anything because they leaked Fallout 4. So, but they were blacklisted from Bethesda stuff that point going forward. I think some of those websites probably ran unfavorable stuff about Bethesda or people at Bethesda that made them not want to give. And I'll just say this: nobody's entitled to a review code. SkillUp, ACG, myself, IGN, nobody's entitled to get one, right? I don't think SkillUp. I don't even think SkillUp was banned from getting one because of his Fallout 76 stuff. I think it was more that he made tons of videos about Fallout 76 making fun of Bethesda and said, I don't care what their next game is, I'm going to trash it. So I think it was more that. It was like the fact that he said, whatever their next game is, I'm going to destroy it, regardless of whether it's good or not.
That's not exactly what he said, though.
Well, I mean, in the similar vein, I just think that's what happened in this situation. But I don't think you're entitled to a review code no matter who you are. You get them, great. You don't get them, oh well, happens, right?
Yeah, well, but then do you think the company should be able to control? I mean, obviously, this is a sort of a stupid question, but it's not, right? So that I think, again, and I say this about reviews, I think there should be a framework in which if you are within that, these are the parameters that you have to meet, and if you're within those parameters, then it shouldn't be a personal decision. I think it should be you fit the parameters, and so you get a code. And when it comes to Skill Up, and yourself, I mean, with the amount of followers that you have, it comes to Skill Up and the integrity that you guys have, and the honesty that we get out of your reviews. I think it's a bit of a disservice to the community that he didn't get one, so that we could get Skill Up's point of view on it.
Yeah, but I mean, we still will get Skill Up's review whenever he does play the game and finish it, right? So, I don't know. I'm of the opinion no one's entitled to a review, and I wasn't even expecting to get one. So I wouldn't have been disappointed if I didn't.
I agree, Rand. I don't think everyone deserves a code. In saying that, I think Bethesda have given out codes to people I don't think, people that are quite small. Like, they have been pretty broad with the people they've given review codes to with this game. And I think they deserve a lot of kudos to how many people they've given this game to, how much time they allowed these people to actually play the game, the review scored. Yes, we're only in early access now. You had to buy the premium edition to get access to the game at the moment. And so the game hasn't actually fully come out, and the review scores out there. A lot of games don't do that now. They embargo it till right up to the point of release. So I think Bethesda need to be, given kudos for
Yeah,
that
just on the
point.
back of that, when you say that as well, and this is probably never going to happen again because of the smoke that I'm giving Bethesda at the minute. But on the back of that, they did send me a code, and I bought the Constellation Edition, and we'll be giving away that code today on the show. We'll be asking, we get a couple of codes actually, but we'll be asking a question. You get it right, and we'll DM you the code. But we'll do that a little bit later. But yeah, Pete, I believe you're right, but I think the big guys that do these reviews, and that's their bread and butter, should have access to a code. I kind of disagree with you, Rand. And look, Jaffe said this, and then I'll jump back to you, Pete. He said, if you've built your business on access to early games to review to draw traffic, then A, you get what you deserve when you piss off the people who provide that access, and B, other than the top 1%, your business model is antiquated and not long for this world. I don't agree with that, man. I don't want reviewers to go away. I love review channels. I think it's a great service to the community, great service themselves as well, Pete.
I'll say one more thing when it comes to the skill up thing. He was reviewing Fallout 76 and he personally attacked Todd Howard. You don't do that. You review the game. You don't call out a man as a liar. I don't appreciate that. I don't think he should have done that. And I don't know if that's the reason he got it or not, but I just didn't like the look of that. I think that's a very, very bad look. In saying that, Fallout 76 at launch was a terrible game, and yes, we basically got lied to by Todd when he came up on stage and said what the game was going to be about. What Skill Up should do to fix what he put out is actually talk about the game to this date. And Holly can go talk to this more than I can. I mean, she plays the game daily. The game is completely different. It is night and day to when it launched and to what it is now. And it's actually a really fun game to play now. So I think it is the game that we were promised all that long ago. So I think if he did something like that, it would go a long way in him putting an olive branch out to Bethesda.
Well, he did.
And maybe,
he did do that
relationship.
He has done that. He did that in 2020. So maybe a follow-up video in 2023. Yeah, but he did, and he wasn't too scathing in that video. Umbra, I don't think we aligned on this topic with review codes from memory. But do you think that these big creators that you expect to get codes should get them? Or do you think it's a privilege, not a right?
Should get no. I'm much in the vein of Pete and Risk, and Rand here. Risk is, and I feel like it's a privilege, right? Like it's a privilege to get these things handed out to you. And I do get where you're coming from, though. I think you make perfect sense. I'm not annoyed or disagreement there. I just think that because it was this guy, I forgot his name. He's a writer for some company. He's out there. You know him if you see him. But he was like, oh, such and such, and they should get this. It's like, no, you're not owed anything. They don't owe you a code. You can play the game when it comes out for all they care. And for all I care, like I'm going to be arguing for your benefit of getting a code. Oh, please give him a code. He deserves it. No, you don't deserve a thing. You get what you get, and sometimes you won't get. I do feel, though, after I went back to watch that video with Skill Up, I thought that one specific video, I didn't think that he was that crazy over the top. But as you pointed out, and as Pete pointed out, calling him a liar, and like that's a no-no right there. Calling him a liar multiple times, and as Rand pointed out, when he said he was openly hostile toward Elder Scrolls, that's when I was like, that's where he probably put his foot in his mouth. You know what I mean? But other than that, I think Skill Up is a great reviewer. But I definitely understand where you're coming from with it, Risk. I just feel like there are some people who overemphasize that they, this need for them getting a code, and I think it's just wrong-headed. I would add, too, when it comes to that, I think that David Jaffe had somewhat of a point. And I say that just because I think I look back at Dan Stapleton here, and I look at that review and I see how much distrust IGN has. And that's where it really comes from, by the way. It's Stapleton and the things he said about Xbox in the past that gives me pause and it gives many people pause. but it's IGN in their ways. Few weeks where they just flat out ignore Xbox and the games coming to it in Game Pass, but will list it for PlayStation and PC or Nintendo or whatever. Stuff like that creates this thought that they are unfair and undeserving. And I think after a while, especially with the oversaturation we have of us doing podcasts like this, and more people becoming more trusted than those people in being paid by these corporations, I think more people are going to flock to Rand. The more people are going to flock to a cult. You know what I mean? More people are going to flock to a dealer if he ever does a review. You know, I think more people. no shade to deal.
No shade.
But more people are
Dealer.
going to flock to you, Riskit, or whomever else that they come to trust, because you hear from us on a daily, weekly basis, me almost daily because I'm doing 3 podcasts. But you're hearing from us so often, and you come to trust what we're talking about. I know that if Rand is saying, I know if Cole is saying it, I know if you're saying it, Risk, I know it's integrity behind that. You see what I mean? So I think it's coupled with that I think David Jaffe is kind of right. I think we're going, as in most things, all digital, and most people are going digital instead of reading these reviews, and I say that digitally with parentheses with my fingers because it's still digital if they're reading online. But you know what I mean. I don't think they're going there to as much to support these corporate people there in their established place like IGN anymore. I just don't see that. I think it's starting to dwindle in some ways. Clearly, they still have a big base of people, but I think after a while, more people are going to start trusting people like the podcasters more than they would trust those people, I think.
Well,
And then
the
you have
truth is, Umbra,
certain outliers too, like the skill ups for sure, you know.
the truth is, bro, is if you look at the actual numbers of the people that watch the IGN review compared to some of the bigger boys, is they just don't get the numbers anymore. There was a time where, yes, you had to go to IGN to get reviews. It's just no longer the case, and you are going to go to people that you more trust. And honestly, I wouldn't have watched the IGN review or the GameStop review if I wasn't watching this show, if I wasn't on this show, and so I knew what I was talking about. Because I just not only do I don't trust them anymore, I don't think they have any integrity. I think for the last couple of years they've been giving far too much away of the actual game in their reviews.
That's true.
Showing things that they shouldn't be showing, and massive spoilers. And it's infuriating to me. And I really wanted to go into Starfield fresh.
Yeah, I have that issue as well. Shane,
Riskit.
Sorry, Red.
Can I just interject for a second?
Jump in there.
So, you mentioned ACG, and here's what ACG has to say about all the code stuff, right? Because you mentioned like him and Skill Up. ACG says, why I didn't discuss having Starfield code. There was this massive manufactured and hilarious discussion about, quote, if you gave a prior game a bad score, didn't like their stuff, you didn't get a code. Or, we've been blocked, Joe. I just wanted that to continue so we could watch it fall apart. And somebody asked him, so why didn't Skill Up get a code? This one question makes your entire argument fall apart. And ACG says, not at all. Completely within the normal bounds of the post. Since I stated, for example, Redfall was the worst game I played in all of 2023 and accidentally broke embargo by 9 hours. It's not related to being owed a code. Many didn't get codes, some who love Bethesda games and some who don't. I have been refused code. Doesn't mean I am owed it, and absolutely doesn't mean I was blocked from it. And then Cammy, who's the head of like PR relations for influencers at Bethesda, says, you already know this, but I sincerely appreciate the work you do and the authentic perspective you offer to players through your content. So, I mean, like I said, look at ACG. Broke Redfall embargo by 9 hours. Was scathing. Maybe set the tone for all the awful Redfall reviews that were going to come, right? Because people were like, oh man, ACG put out his video, he crapped on it, and the reviews were still to come. You would think maybe Bethesda would be like, we're not giving him a code for Starfield, right? But they still did. So I think it just has to do with things probably said by Skill Up and articles potentially ran by Eurogamer and Metro about Bethesda in the past, and they were just like, we don't got to give you a code, And I think that's what happened. You're not owed a code, no matter who you are.
But does that then, and Shane, I'm going to jump to you and ask the question, does that then, and Rand, you can answer as well, does that then force sites to be disingenuous or careful, too careful.
Because I've never because when I get codes from Microsoft, all they ask for is to be completely honest with them, right? Completely honest to my views on it. I gave Crackdown 3 a 6. I basically crapped all over the game. Right?
I can't believe you and Colt still talk over that. No, cool.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm just saying, like, even Colt was very harsh on Redfall in his review. I was very harsh on Redfall when the time I played it on my podcast. The thing is, it's all about honesty and probably not about attacking developers or people within the company, because once you kind of go down that road, they don't want to they're not going to want to work with you in the future, right? Mm-hmm. So I've never had a situation where Xbox tells me what to say, right? They always say, just, make your, if you make, I don't even have to make
somebody clip that. He just said Xbox tells him what to say. Okay.
Yeah. They just want your honest review. And maybe, some people go a little bit too far. I would imagine if I made a video, if let's say, Hellblade 2 came out and I gave it a 2 out of 10 and I was attacking the developers, attacking Phil and Matt Booty in there, I probably wouldn't get anything more from Xbox, because then it went beyond just a review of the game into something personal, right? Into something that it really shouldn't be. So, so I don't know. I think you can be as harsh. I think if you're like, hey, Redfall, this is the game and it's this awful, and you give it a 4 out of 10 or a 5, they'll probably work with you again, because they probably know the game was bad themselves. I'm sure they know the game wasn't that great, right? So as long as you keep it professional and keep it to the game itself without delving into grudges, then you're probably perfectly fine.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Shane, do you think that that creators are and review sites, and especially these big ones like IGN and Eurogamer, and do you think they're entitled to get a code? Do you think they should get a code just because of the service they provide to the community?
No, I don't think so. And this is coming from someone who worked publisher side for 6 years. Like, PR reviews come from PR, right? PR is a function of marketing, and marketing is there to sell the game. So anyone in that role, in a press related position at a publisher, is going to do their best to make sure that the game is positioned as positively as it can, particularly at launch. Now, that's not to say that I align with the fact that you should block reviewers who are potentially likely to give the game a poor score. But the sites who do rely on that access, the ones who leak things or about games, they will get blocked. Like, I remember when I was at Ubisoft, Kotaku never got anything because they leaked Assassin's Creed, the next Assassin's Creed game, like every January, like clockwork. So of course we weren't gonna work with them. So I don't think reviewers, whether they're journalists or creators, are owed a code. But it's being in PR. It's your job to work well with these people. These are the guys who will help you promote the game in some form at launch, and then even before launch. In their preview coverage and whatnot. And I don't know, as someone who was in this space professionally, like I never begrudged a reviewer for giving a poor score. Like, it's really just their opinion. And as long as you can work with them still in professional capacity, and they can be fair, and obviously, like you mentioned, Riskit, not personally attack anyone as well, then that's fine. Like, I don't recall Skill Up, the videos about him calling Todd Howard a liar. I think it's important that if people in positions of power do lie, that we do call them out on it.
Well, that's
whether
true.
whether the review is the correct forum to do that, I'm not sure. I will say that I remember, like, one of the first times I met Skill Up, I chaperoned him to Gamescom back in 2018, I think, when he was covering a bunch of games. Ubisoft announced something overnight about the Division 2 at the time that wasn't favorable. He came up to me and one of the PR managers at the time and said, "Listen, guys, I need to make a video about this. This is not good, and my community expects me to react." And I remember saying, like, that's totally fine, man. Like, if you think it's not not a positive thing, then you're entitled to your opinion, and that's feedback that we'll have to take on board. Of course, I'm not gonna. I was never gonna. We were never gonna punish Scott
and then you blocked him, right?
Well, that's
left him on the curb.
No. Skilf and I are still good mates. We chatted on the phone yesterday. So I suppose all of that is to say that I think we should keep in mind that PR is a function of marketing. But you can still, be a reviewer and still work with publishers in a professional way that doesn't mean you're going to get blocked for giving poor review scores. And Rand has just illustrated that as well. So yes. To answer your original question, though, Riskit, are reviewers entitled to codes? No.
Yeah, well, look, I guess I may be a bit of a skill up shill, so that may be why my reaction is different to everyone else on the panel. Blue, we haven't heard from you, and I do. I love his reviews. I've loved his channel since the Division days. And I don't know. I always found him to be very integrous. I will say though, yeah, he definitely went in on Todd Howard, and that probably wasn't clever. He went in on the game, and that's absolutely fair. But if you're going to go in on the guy who runs the studio, it's probably going to be a little bit. And look, it was beneficial to his channel. It blew up. It blew his channel up. So I guess it's something he probably doesn't regret, but. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's understandable hearing from Shane, who worked at Ubisoft and in that PR function. Blue, what do you think? Do you think that these big reviewers, these guys who have integrity, these guys who are willing to call out the companies, deserve codes?
No, I mean, you're hearing it from Rand, who, is one of those guys who gets codes and feels like it's not a right, it's a privilege, right? Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity, but I don't know that anyone gets mad per se, right, when they don't get one, at least on the influencer side. It all kind of ties back to the conversation we had a little bit ago about IGN and the integrity and all that. It's, if you treat someone in your life, it's the same thing in life. If you disrespect someone to their face or say scathing things about them, and this is, to a mass audience, right? That's a problem. You do that on a personal level, one-to-one, people have an issue with it, let alone, worldwide on the internet for everyone to see. There's nothing wrong with not liking something. There's nothing wrong with giving an extremely unfavorable review of a product. It's how you do it. And the other thing that's extremely, insulting to a lot of people is, remember, people get all fanboy about games, but these are people who invested their lives for, 4, 5, 6 years working on this product, whether they loved it or not. That was, it was a long time in their life. And it's, it's a labor of either work or love or whatever that was their job. And then for somebody to come in and, personally insult them for that, it's a tough pill to swallow. But if you give a fair, honest review and it's not good, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know. I always get really, really upset because I always think about the people who, are like pins and needles. And then to the worst part of it, of course, is when you come out and you say, I don't care what you're going to do next, I'm going to, take a dump all over it. Well, why would I ever want to deal with you again? Like, I don't know. I think that shows a little pettiness and, and I'm sure he didn't mean it. I'm sure the next game he would have reviewed fairly, but you don't know for sure, right? And if you put that out there, of course they're going to take that unfavorably. I don't know. That's my opinion on it.
I know. I think that's pretty fair. And then hearing from Rand, Shane, maybe you guys have got me turned around on it. But my question is, and my final question, and we will move on to the next topic. But my final question for you guys is, where's that line? Like, where does that line exist where, a platform holder can start to influence the positivity of reviews by black banning people whom do give an unfavorable review? Like, where's that line? That'll create a bias in the media, and I hate that. I think it's a very careful line. I don't think Microsoft walks it terribly. I think Microsoft's very good at that line. But we do know that PlayStation will black ban people for just giving an unfavorable review. We've heard that before.
I draw the line at giving a code to people like Dreamcast guy or something. I don't know. And I'm joking.
He's a lovely man. Lovely man.
Messing.
Look, we will move on to the next topic, but before we do, guys, this is we're running a bit of a charity podcast for Game on Cancer. If you go to the top with the pinned comment, you can donate to Game on Cancer, and the couple of super chats that we've had come through, I will put those into the donations. So thank you very much. But I actually don't have access to my super chats, so that'll come out of my own wallet. So if you do want to donate or super chat, just send it through to that link at the top there and leave a message, and I can still read it out exactly like a super chat. It is for a fantastic cause. And if you are from Australia, you can also go into the running to win a custom Starfield PC games and all sorts of other little cool merch. So please, definitely, if you can, please do donate. We'll move on to the next topic, which I don't have up because I was looking at other stuff, and now I'm going to ramble. It's super chat. So we got a couple of super chats in. I'll read those out. Spartan661 with a $9.99 super chat. He said, I just got my Constellation Edition at 2 p.m. and started to download at 3 p.m. The area I live in doesn't have the fastest internet connection. I have at least an hour or two until I can play at this time. Yeah, I feel you, man. Everyone was playing yesterday while I was working, and it was tough. It was tough. I spent a lot of time on Twitter, as I said. Papa Barco with 72 with the 1999 super chat. Thank you very much, Papa. He says, great topics, great panel. Hit that like button and show him some love. Thank you very much, Papa Barco. And I will say that, guys, we go live at 8 p.m. EST. So if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. We have a good time on this. I'm going to jump on to the next topic, which is Starfield. So look, I'm 2 hours into the game, so I don't really have much of a good grasp on the game to give any sort of real opinion. I will say there's a couple of annoyances in the menu for me, but other than that, like I'm having a great time. It's fun. The shooting, someone said the shooting was janky. I believe that was Bless on Kind of Funny. I love the shooting. It's fantastic. That's been my problem with Bethesda games from day one. It's always been an issue for me, is they haven't been able to sort of nail it. While I think there's still a little bit of improvement to go there, but it's good. Feels great. I loved it. So, Rand, we've already seen your review, but just a quick roundup. What are the negatives that you didn't like and your main issues with the game? And my question to you, I guess, is where do you see this game going? Like, this obviously has legs.
Okay, so this will be what I'll talk about, and then I'm gonna hit the road. So, Starfield. The thing I don't like the most about it is the fact I didn't get any achievements. You know, well, I did. That's not. I'm joking, but I actually didn't get any achievements while I was playing it because they were turned off. And even though I completed all the quests and all the side quests, if I want to get those achievements, I got to replay through the whole game. That ain't happening. So that was kind of a bummer. But what's a bigger bummer than that is all the loading in the game. My lord, woo! Does the game load so much? And for me, that was probably my biggest nitpick, because it's something. Because when he talked about what Dan's review of how he liked Fallout 4 so much and gave it a 9.5, I do think Starfield and Fallout are different, even though they're similar in the way, because Fallout is just this world you're on, and you just go out and explore, right? And you'll come across quests naturally. But it keeps on going. Like, oh, I'm going to go to this mountain. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to pick up some quests. I'm going to do some things. I'm going to shoot some stuff. I'm going to clear this town and get some loot and move on. The thing with Starfield is it puts all these different loads and things before you can actually get to the content that you actually want to do. So it's like, I'm on a planet, but I need to go to Neon to do this quest. So I can either do all the long loading or I can quickly just fast track. It's just loading everywhere. And it puts extra time in between you in getting to that stuff you want to accomplish, where in like Fallout and Elder Scrolls, there really isn't, because you're just in this singular world and you just are just walking around getting stuff, right? Starfield's a little bit different because it's segmented. So that's that segmentation that was kind of bothering me. When you go to New Atlantis and you go into the UC offices, guess what? It's a load, right? Or now you're done talking to the guy in the office. Now you leave. Oh, it's a load. You want to get to the commercial district? Oh, you got to take a tram, and that's a load too, right? They just put a lot of barriers in between the stuff, and sometimes it can be really immersion breaking when you're just constantly just like twiddling your thumbs waiting for something to get done. So much so that you pick up your phone and start looking at Twitter. I also don't care for the inventory. That was kind of confusing at first. Like, okay, where's all this stuff? What do I put them in here? How do I get it into the fast swap? I didn't really speak much about encumbrance because I hate encumbrance in games. And they did it a little bit differently in this one, where if you picked up a lot of stuff, you could still run, but you could run for a short amount of times. You just really couldn't fast travel. Because in these sort of games, like I want to pick up everything so I can sell stuff, so I can get a bunch of money, so I can be able to buy stuff. So it was kind of annoying, the menus, but particularly the loading wasn't something it's just something so persistent throughout the whole game that it really bugged me. But in the beginning, I don't know, the beginning of the game to me was, the game throws so much at you, right? All these systems, all these things. You're walking around New Atlantis, and then you start getting all these different quests. And by the time you like get out of the lodge, for me, in the very beginning of the game, I had like 20 missions, and I was like, what do I even do? And I started doing some of them, like the activities, and they were just lame. It was like, go here, do this, talk to this person, come back. Felt like Atlas Fallen, you know what I mean, Umbra? Like just lame, right?
No.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, I mean, I do get some of the idea, like what you're saying, man. I do. Like, I think initially it is a lot to take in as far as that goes, but I'll be honest, I caught on pretty quick, and man, I don't know.
No, it's not necessarily about catching on. It's about some of the, like, because I'm a quest dude, right? I guess maybe I should make the preamble here. I am not playing Starfield to be my forever game, right? I am not playing Starfield to land on 1,000 planets and go explore the nether reaches. I play these games for the quest. I play the games, like Elder Scrolls, the Thieves Guild, all that sort of stuff, the main story. Right. That's what I play these games for. And I get out because I got other games to play, right? There's Mortals of Avrium, and there's Mortal Kombat, and there's Alan Wake 2, and all these other games coming out. I can't be spending all this time. Not anymore, but in the past, sure. I can't be spending all this time with one game, right? I want to do the content that I'm here for. And someone handed me all these things, and maybe that's the thing of like reviewing it. So I was like, okay, I should probably check out all this stuff. Where it was like, hey, you want to carry this laser to this other planet? And it's like, normally I wouldn't do that because I don't care. But it's like, okay, let me check it out. And it was like, oh, that was kind of stupid, And it's like, I was like, where are the good quests? Because I guess maybe it was just my situation I was in where I would just be like, oh, let me get rid of all these quests before moving on, and none of them really. I was like, man, these are all sort of lame, right? Mm. And then finally, I got into the UC Vanguard stuff, and suddenly my perspective on the game started to change because now I'm invested. I was like, oh man, this quest is really good. The story that they're telling, the voice acting. I ended up loving the main quest. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but it's easily their best main story they've ever done. Probably, it might even be my favorite story this year in a game. I vibed so hard with the main story. It's ridiculous. And I am a sci-fi nut, and that stuff does, I do have a bias for the sci-fi nature of the game, which is what speaks to me over, say, Elder Scrolls or Fallout. Like, I don't really like post-apocalyptic, and I love my medieval fantasy novels, but medieval fantasy video games are a different story, right? They're not super interesting.
No, I don't think they've been done well.
But
there's not many that do
But Starfield being sci-fi, like sci-fi, you can do anything, right? You can have all these different planets to go to that look different with all crazy weapons, with all crazy aliens. You can't necessarily do that in science in a fantasy game because it's like swords, shields, axes, spells. So you could do more in sci-fi. You can tell like a deeper story or a crazier story because the setting allows it. And that's exactly what I got. So, if you're talking about the first 5 or 8 hours being, disappointing for me, because they were, but man, the rest of those 60, 70 hours were fantastic because I was hooked. I go to I go to bed every night, wake up and be like, all right, let's go another 7 hours of Starfield. And it was so much fun. Just being immersed in the world, finding crazy shit. I mentioned this one in my video, but my thought process about the game started to change and I still haven't talked to anybody who's done this mission. It was just a random mission I found, right? In the terminals across in like New Atlantis and all the other places you go, and they'll have a bunch of missions you can do, like, hey, go destroy the Crimson Fleet, perhaps pick this up and go destroy this dude, and he's in a city. But then there was a mission that was like, hey, take this laser to a planet. And I did, right? So I went through all the loading, and it's like, I'm found this planet. And it's like, all right, as soon as you land, the mission's complete. And I'm like, all right, well, now what? I can go continue on with these other things I have. But I just landed on a planet with a spaceport, and I can see some people in the distance. And I'm like, do I go do something else? Or do I just kind of like get out here and look around? So I decided to get out and look around. And it's like a small little settlement or whatever. I'm talking to some people and doing some quest for them, which is like, hey, put up 3 posters and whatever. And I'm like, this is lame. But I talked to the bartender, and she's like, hey, I want my beer, and I want my beer back. And I'm like, okay, well, where's your beer? She's like, oh, it's on this spaceship up in orbit. Can you go get it for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds different. It's in a spaceship in orbit. I haven't done one of those yet. It's better than me walking around putting up posters here, right? So I go to the spaceship in orbit, and it's derelict. It's a huge derelict ship. And surrounding it is like 2 spacers. And so they're, I get in a dogfight with them, destroy them. I'm like, all right. So I dock with the ship. First time docking with the ship. And I'm inside this derelict ship, and it's got some spacers who are trying to loot it. But the alarms are going off. Something funky's going on. All of a sudden, like every 40 seconds, the gravity switches from on to off. So I'm going through the ship on the ground fighting people, and then suddenly you be in midair in 0G fighting people as like the stuff from the cargo containers would lift up in the air. So like you'd be on the ground, and then you'd be in the air. And it went through the whole mission where like the 0G turned on and off. And it was the coolest thing because it's that sci-fi setting. There's only something that really a sci-fi setting can do, with 0G. And it's something I never experienced the rest of the game. It was a very unique mission set up here. And I was like, oh, right. And then talking to all the people I knew playing the game, talk to Colt, talk to Jez, talk to Maddie, talk to Cog, talk to Smooth, talk to Addict. I'm like, do any of you guys play it? None of them. None of them knew anything about this mission. None of them done anything like it. None of them had ever been this thing where it was the 0G would go on and off. It raised the coolness factor into my eye because I felt like I had discovered something so unique that most people wouldn't. And then it crept in my head. It's like, man, I would have missed this too because I landed on this planet and got credit for the mission I was doing and almost just left. It was a good thing I actually took time to look around and talk to people to get this mission. Otherwise, I would have missed out on something really cool. And I even hearing when talking to people behind the scenes when they're playing it, hey, did you get this mission? I'd be like, no, that sounds so cool. And they'd be like, I did this one. What about you guys? I'd be like, no, man, that sounds cool. Where'd you get that? Everybody had some sort of discussion point, some sort of mission or set of things that they did that none of us, had seen yet. Because everybody's going to go about the game differently, right? And it was like kind of that moment when things clicked. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to do some of the faction quests that suddenly, my 7, because I wasn't really enjoying it too much, to, oh man, like I'm having a ball at this point. Like I couldn't wait to continue on with some of the stuff. So maybe it was just, a bad sort of selection of things I decided to do in the beginning because hey, you can do what you want in this game, right? You can not do the main story whatsoever and just completely skip it. You can go out and explore and build outposts everywhere. You could do whatever. You could do whatever you want. So I think some people's experiences might be different than others. Like mine, where it was kind of like, I don't know. But then Umbra's like, yo, this is way better than Atlas Fallen, that turd, right? I don't know. It's a really interesting game because you don't really get that from a lot of other games out there. You know, like Spider-Man's going to be Spider-Man. It's going to be right. It's going to be linear focus, open world, but people are going to go through it the same sort of way. And a lot of games are like that. But Starfield, because it has so much and so many different things, and so many different avenues that people can do, that people won't experience a lot of the same stuff, or actually won't play it out the same way. Like I persuaded everybody. So when we were talking about like this battle, I'd be like, I didn't have that battle. I talked the person down, like, what? You could do that? What? You know, like there's so many cool things, but you know, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but I just haven't talked live about Starfield at all. Like we didn't do the podcast today, so
yeah,
it was perfect chance for you to do it here. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that's part of the issue. And I had Hargeet on the show yesterday. And part of the thing I think with games like, Starfield is you're going to get these moments that are kind of unique to you a lot of times. That what you just explained, like not many people are going to have that happen that way. And I listened to Ryan McCaffrey. He talked about how he accidentally punched somebody and it led him to being recruited by, these other space pirates or whatever. And
Crimson Fleet. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So a lot of these things happen in unique ways like that. And that's part of Bethesda's DNA with their games. And that's why I feel like, how do you play this and you get all these unique, crazy things that happen to you that can happen out of nowhere, or that you will come across this one person that leads you to this long string of missions or whatever it may be. And as you pointed out already, that the main campaign story is really solid. And I've heard other people say that it's the best too for Bethesda. And then say, 7 out of 10. I feel like it should be more of a conglomerate, like Hargeet pointed out. He said EGM used to do that, and I remember that, where they'd have like 2 or 3 people give a review, and they'll do the average of that. Because when you have something like this where it's so unique, it's hard to give just one take when there's so many different experiences, one or all of us will get from that game. And that's part of my issue with it too. So, but I like your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, before we do go to everyone else's thoughts, Rand has to get out of here. He only pledged a half an hour, and he's done an hour and a half, man. So you're an absolute.
Yeah, I mean, because I know if I stay, it's going to be a 3-hour show. So gotta get out of here. Even though you guys are like, no. Yeah, I'm sure Umbra's here. It's going to be a 3-hour show.
Yeah, Riskit's got this. I mean, what? Yeah, look.
Get back to space.
Before we move on, Rand, thank you for coming through, man. We really appreciate all your time and everything you do in the community. And if you don't know, guys like Rand's actually, you get some people who aren't quite what they are when you meet them in real life. And I haven't met Rand, but I have spoken to him a few times. And Rand is just a real nice dude, man.
Thank you.
And you're an absolute
completely
champion.
Different in real life, though. I would say ask Colt, but Colt doesn't even know me in real life.
I'll see you at the next Fan Fest, so I'll find out. We'll find out.
Well, we'll see. Next Fan Fest.
Man, we gotta go get some pizza sometime, man, or an Italian.
Yeah, we should. Man, we should have when COD came last year.
We'll bring Holly.
Palermo. I got him some Palermos. I don't know if you guys have Palermos, but
that's not how this works.
Palermo's. I remember you talking about that. Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, I heard the pizza in Chicago was just terrible. But look,
well, no, so much, deep dish pizza is terrible.
Yeah,
it's not.
Co-sign. Well, you like deep dish, Holly?
Wait, you like deep dish?
At certain times, it's not my everyday.
And from certain places, maybe certain places.
This is the real reason the podcast is about to go for 3 hours. Here we go.
Yeah. Chicago pizza and the varieties, and people don't really know Chicago pizza, but I mean, lose a lot.
Who you like, Illuminati's? Is that what you like?
Yeah, that buttercup.
Illuminati's is pretty good. Illuminati's. I mean, the reason we're talking about this because Australia doesn't have pizza. Hasn't been invented.
we have the best,
or
pizza.
At least they don't have good pizza.
Oh, we do.
They have something on a Barbie all the time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna cook one up, and when I come to Fan Fest, I'll freeze it, bring it over on the flight, and you can check it out.
There's 0% chance that Australian pizza is better than
Melbourne has one of the biggest expat
Italian
populations of Italy in the world.
Yeah,
come to Lygon Street, bro. It is beautiful.
Best pizzas. Yep. Look, we got
I'm sure it's good for Australia standards.
Oh, man, here we go. Third world country standards, huh?
Probably like Kansas pizza.
We got to let Rand go. Rand, can you let everyone in the chat, if they don't already know, where they can find you, what you're looking forward to, and
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
let
I
you
mean,
get
if
out.
you want to check out the content, youtube.com/RandallThor19. Haven't put out any videos recently besides the Starfield one, but just wasn't really feeling it. So, but I'm feeling it again because I get in these moods sometimes where I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. But then sometimes I'm like, yeah, I do want to do stuff. But we do a podcast every Friday, usually. Sometimes it's not Friday, like the last two, or this week, or last week, and then this week will be Monday because Jez is sick. He got COVID,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Shout out to
it's funny. He was like, we were gonna do it, and he jumps in the Discord call, and he was like, I'm like, bro, we can't podcast with you sounding like this. I'm like, I gotta make an executive decision. Vetoed. Like we cannot do this show with you sounding half dead. So,
Funny, I
but yeah, I
thought the chip
appreciate you
would
guys
get him
having
like
me
that.
on, and you guys have a
Yeah.
good rest of the show. I am going to go get some food, and go read a book probably.
Enjoy that deep dish, man.
Thank you so much,
Actually,
man.
I need to watch the next two episodes of Wheel of Time. See if it gets any better.
Oh, is it back?
I'm gonna doubt
Yeah,
it.
they dropped the first 3 episodes of season 2.
Oh, nice. I didn't know
my
that.
I'm
lord.
glad you told me that.
Yeah, so I watched the first episode last night. So many changes from the book. It kind of hurts me as like a huge Wheel of Time fan that they
'Cause you
think
said that
that's
about the first season, right?
It's the acting.
yeah.
that's
Well,
getting
they're
to
doing
me,
even
bro.
bigger changes now, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh my, you are not better than Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson. So
It's the acting that's getting to me. I just don't think that
the acting was significantly better than the first episode.
because
it's
it
just-
got to me first season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going
Rand,
to do.
thank you for
guys
joining us, brother. We appreciate
Yes.
you, brother.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Umbra,
and
for having
then-
me, and Jedi for having me on your show, and Holly for your
You
show.
are very welcome, brother.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
All right, all right, get out of
See
here.
you guys later.
See you, Rand.
Bye, Rand.
Oh, absolutely fantastic to have him on the show. Well, I just want to get a roundtable, basically, guys, of what we've been doing, which has been a very conversational one, and I'm loving it, of what you guys' thoughts are on Starfield. Got a little bit of Umbra. We haven't got the full picture, but I do want to jump to Shane, because Shane's only had a short time, like myself, I believe in it, and just get his initial impressions of what's going on. But before I do, guys, please hit the like button. We go live at 8 p.m. EST every Friday if you're in the US. If you're in Australia, it's 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So subscribe, and you will catch us live. And this is a special show today where we are donating to Game On Cancer. They do cancer research. And Shane, just before you give us his impressions, can you tell us what Game On Cancer does for cancer?
Yeah, sure. So Game on Cancer is an initiative of the charity that I work for called Cure Cancer. We've been around for 50 plus years. We're based in Sydney, and our mission is to kickstart new ideas from amazing researchers all around the world to find a cure for this terrible disease. So we've been very fortunate to fund researchers from all over the world that have gone on to make global breakthroughs. If you want to learn more about those breakthroughs and now impacting, you can head to our website, curecancer.com.au. It's my job and my team's job to work with anyone and everyone in the games industry, basically, to try and fundraise as much money as possible and just fund as many of these incredible researchers as we possibly can. And we've very fortunate to partner with Bethesda this month to do a Starfield themed fundraiser, which is the campaign that Riskit is currently fundraising for. And when you donate, you go in the running to win a bunch of Starfield goodies, including a custom PC worth around $4,000. That is only open to Australians, so I will just note that. Thank you to everyone who has donated so far, particularly Shooter 2853 on Tiltify says, great cause, guys. I once had testicular cancer in 1974, so this has a lot of meaning to me. So yeah, that's really appreciated. Also, shout out to Bane Shaley, who donated $20 and said, very good podcast, 7 out of 10. I think he's spot on. Yeah, so to answer your
Sounds
question,
familiar, that person.
what a legend. Yeah, so I've only got a couple of hours in Starfield. I booted up last night after work. My girlfriend and I are also playing It Takes Two for the first time, which I am loving, by the way. That game is amazing.
Spectacular game.
Yeah,
Spectacular
so
game,
good,
yeah.
so good. Yes, only a couple of hours into Starfield. I'm just really really enjoying being back in a Bethesda RPG in a new world. And it's the like the atmosphere and the vibe. It just feels really nice to be at the start of what I know is going to be an epic journey, right? Like you just feel like this is the start of this brand new franchise that's going to go live on for like a decade plus, and we're going to create stories and be able to share like these water cooler moments where we talk about what we discovered and what you discovered, and how, you know, I was like, oh, I went to this planet and I saw something completely different. So I'm just really looking forward to those. Like I think Greg Miller put out a reel on Instagram talking about how he basically found a side quest that's basically the story of Batman, like in the world of Starfield. So I'm like, oh my god, like that sounds amazing. How can I find that? So I'm pumped. And I gotta say, like the art style for me is really doing it. I'm loving this universe so far. Yeah, I can't wait to play more. Don't really have many more thoughts on it outside of that, but so far it's feeling really good.
Yeah. Well, I do want to go back to Umbra though and just get the sort of his finish up on his thoughts as well. But I'm feeling very much the same, Shane, except I actually did make a comment about the art style. I'm not quite loving it. It's very stark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love graphically, it's beautiful. NPCs probably need a little bit of work, the just the everyday run of the mill NPCs, but graphically beautiful, but it's very pastel-y. I would have liked just a little dash more color. But Umbra, what's how you feeling? How many hours into the game are you? How you feeling about the game?
I am 12 hours and some minutes, and I'm with you on the pastel-y kind of, I don't know. It seems like some, ACG put it best. He said it looks like it's an overcast going on there with the weather or something, and it gives this kind of, it makes the game look more dreary and washed out than it should. Only when you get to like New Atlantis do you see like this color pop more so, and I think that they would have done well to kind of give it more of a natural color versus the typical Bethesda, I don't know what you're going to call that, tibia. I don't know what they call that type of look. It makes the game look more, I don't know. I don't want to say sepia. Yeah. And it doesn't make it look dated. It just makes it look less vibrant than it should. And when you get to space, it's a contrast because you get to space and it's like, oh, I don't know how else best to explain it except.
Come on, Umbra, you can sing better than that. Let's do it.
You're right. You're right. Let me try that over.
Oh no.
Alrighty then.
It's not your best
Yes.
work.
That's not okay. I'm sorry. I'll try it again later. But yeah, like you get out into space and you see this, I don't know, you get these God rays from the sun beaming down towards you. And even if you're not aimed at the sun, you'll see it in the background, and you'll be staring at this planet, and you'll hear the music kick in. And it's this crescendo when you start to hit your jetpack to propel yourself, and it just sounds so damn good and it looks so damn good. I think out of anything that I have to give them the masterclass that they've done here is not only the soundtrack, which I think is one of the best this year, but the sound design. And I'm in Chicago, and there goes the ambulance and such right there. But it's not only just the sound, it's the sound design in general. Like, even if you listen to the gunshots and things like that, right? It has this echo effect in the background. If you can probably hear enemies in the background trying to shoot at you, it has a real good trajectory sound of how that sounds. The way explosions go off, the way the music kicks up when you're about to get into a fight. All of those things combined. Even when you're traveling and you're kind of doing a little bit of exploring and you're mining or whatever it may be, you get this sense of wonder. And at least that's what I got. I know people made much ado about this traveling 10 minutes one way or whatever, and you reach the limit. It's like, who does that? I'm not. You got 100 planets, even if you ignore the 1,000 planets. You got 100 basic planets in the main, camp of the story and side missions that you're going to do. I don't think you're trying to run to the barrier of all those planets. I just don't think you are. And just being realistic, who would expect that in a game? Like, I have to be able to traverse the entire planet of every game, like of every world or whatever. It's kind of silly. So I just think that they did a lot right. What I will say is what they did wrong. I agree that the color situation risk. I think the 30 frames per second is pretty solid. Gunplay is solid. I agree with you where you said Blessing was saying it was janky. No way in the world is this janky. I think it's really solid, especially in third first person. First person, I think, is where it's meant to be played as far as the action. I don't mind switching it to third when I walk around and stuff like that, just to see how everything looks in my character, because my character is dripped out, you know. But beyond that, I feel first person is the way it should be played. I'll add that it's so much in this game to do, from the ship building to making your own outposts and things of that nature. It's a lot. Brand mentioned the over encumbrance. I get over encumbered a lot because I'm taking everything that's not nailed down. So it happens to me often. And right now, well, last time I played, at least, I was shifting things around to try to move because you can't fast travel if you're over encumbered. And so things of that happens, the nature happens too fast. I feel like that's been a long time mainstay issue with Bethesda games, just to say. But man, other than that, traveling around, fighting enemies, exploring and finding all these different things you wouldn't probably expect to find, and having these moments of things happening to you out of the blue is just part of the magic of this game. I can't rate it just yet because I feel like I haven't done enough. Even with 12 hours, I feel like I'm just starting. That's how it feels to me. But the systems, I mentioned this earlier, the menu system and how you travel absolutely is outdated or antiquated or janky or convoluted, and they should have made that simpler. That's one for sure negative that I could see anybody having an issue with. I wouldn't complain about, because that definitely is an issue, how you got to go through this menu system. The quality of life isn't the greatest. But other than that, I think if you've played Bethesda games and you've loved past Bethesda games, I think this is in the same vein of that. I'm interested to see how the story plays out, because like Rand said and others I've heard, they said the story is one of the best Bethesda's ever done. So I'm just starting, but I want to see how it plays out. Other than that, loving the game.
Yeah, I agree, Umbra. I will go next because I think Riskit's not here. So I was a bit worried because I'm not a massive fan of the gameplay in Bethesda games, and so I was really worried about the combat. So I'll get that out of the way first. The combat is fantastic. It feels great. The shooting feels great. All the guns feel different. You can put mods on them, and you can design them until you find something that you enjoy. Straight away out of the bat, you go into you're a miner. I don't think the intro is as good as a lot of the other games that they've done, like, when you're in the vault in the Fallout games. And so I think it's a little bit slow, but very quickly it's that turnaround and change. And I understand what you guys are saying with the color palette of the game, but Bethesda said that they wanted to go more realistic, and I think it works. So when you go to, when you see those pops of color, when you touch the conduit or whatever it's called, and you get those flashes of light, and when you go up into space and you see the god rays shining through, I think they've done it for a reason, and the game is beautiful. I also disagree with Riskit. I think the NPCs are fantastic in this game. They look great. I mean, coming from Creation Engine and Fallout 4 to Creation Engine 2 and what they look like now looks fantastic. I absolutely love it. I haven't played the game enough. I think I've only played like 4 hours, and so I really can't give a full overview. But what I've played so far now, I've loved. Todd Howard said he wants you to find the fun in the game, and I think you can really go and do that. I don't really want to give too much away. I don't really want to give any spoilers. I don't like that. But just go to the moon. I think there's something really cool on there. And the only time, Umbra, that I actually went into third person is when I was on the moon and I just did the moon run,
Yeah.
like those old moon
Started-
landing
yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
It's just
I
hilarious.
did the exact same thing. I started jumping and
looks-
floating around. Yeah.
Yeah, looks so cool. I also love the fact that when you take a picture in the game, it comes up as your loading screen. Just little touches like
Yeah,
that.
that's so
love
cool.
that. I forgot to
Yeah.
mention that. I love that.
Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, so a couple of gripes that I've got with the game. The
Uh-oh.
UI system and the menu system is massively convoluted. It's just too difficult to get to, say, the map, for example. It should be a one-hit button. I think it's 3 buttons to get to the map, especially, on the planet map. So when you're
Yeah.
actually on the planet, I don't like that. There
Agreed.
are far too many loading screens, like Rand said. I mean, you're just going into loading screens left, right, and center. I didn't like that. And my biggest gripe with the game, it's probably a me problem, is that fucking inventory system. I am over encumbered always.
Yeah. So me and you have kind of the same issues. I see.
Yeah, but hey, if it ain't nailed down, bro, I'm taking it.
Yeah. Same.
It
I
is
will
really
say
nice though.
just to add. Sorry, I was just gonna say this. Just to add on the menu thing, I didn't know this until I watched Colt's video earlier. If you hold start down, it'll take you right to the map, to the star map, instead of
Oh,
having to
wow.
go
I
through the
didn't know
different
that.
things. I didn't know that either until he said it. I was like, oh, okay. And I
I saw
tried
that
it
One
today
out.
and I
other
was
thing
like,
maybe you know that I don't know. How the hell do you get into the cargo hold of your ship to put stuff in it? I just can't figure it out.
Yeah. It's
so
inside
it's
the
not
ship.
a location. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's two spots, right? Like you can talk with Vasco and do it there through him. Also, you can go to your ship, well, at least to the initial ship in the frontier, right before you get to the seat to your left, and past those two other chairs to your left, just past it, to your left of it is this panel. You can click on that and add stuff to it or take stuff from it.
Okay.
Mm,
Right.
I
Yeah.
haven't
So,
found that
so
panel
they're my
yet.
couple of gripes. Like I said, I haven't played it enough. So Colt said to mainline the story, and that is against everything that I want to do. So if I pick up a side mission, I generally like to do that, but I have been told by a few people now that I should be mainlining the story, and then the game opens up from there, so I'm probably going to do that. Really looking forward to talking with you guys next week about my full assessment of the game. But hey, it's everybody has to try this game. It really is. It's a very subjective game. So don't listen to anyone's reviews. Don't listen to, what IGN says or what anyone else says. Play the game. It's on Game Pass. Make your own opinion up. I mean, how Xbox, and I don't think it gets talked about enough, how Xbox can put a game like this into Game Pass so everyone can experience it. You don't have to pay for the game. Kudos to them. It's something brand new for this industry, and it's fantastic. So, yeah.
That said, though,
everybody should just try it.
that said, it's killing it with the sales on Steam as well. And
Yeah.
Blue, I'm going to jump to you for your thoughts in a minute. But before I do, we had promised that we would give out some codes. So for those of you who cannot or have not been able to purchase the game and get into early access, we have 2 codes to give away today. We'll do the first one now. So how we're going to do this is normally codes get dropped into the chat and then someone gobbles them up and then we never hear who it's from and who it is. So we didn't want to do that with Starfield. We wanted to do something a little bit different. So we've got 2 questions. One was chosen by the panel, one was chosen by me, and the first one is chosen by me. And if you are the first person to answer this question correct, we'll DM you the code. However, I'm going to drop a bit of a caveat here. They are Australian codes, but there is a way to get around that. And we can happily walk you through how you get around that and get it uploaded to your console. And once it's there, you're good to go. I get codes from Argentina all the time. So the question is everyone ready in the chat? Question is, who is the founder of Bethesda? All right, and
The answer is not Todd Howard.
the first person who picks that one up, we will send you the first code. And it is a premium code, by the way, just so you know. Blue, how are you? What's your thoughts on the game so far? Where are you at with it?
Yeah. Well, I kind of look at Bethesda games almost like a game type, right? Like there's RTSs, there's turn-based, the things. I look at Bethesda as almost their own thing, right? You gotta kind of like a Bethesda game to really like appreciate all of the meat and potatoes, like the over encumbrance and the inventory stuff and the monumental amount of quests that you will pick up along the way without even trying. Like Rand was talking about where he had 20 missions, right? And he'd only gone to do this one simple thing in the very beginning. I love that stuff. That's all me. Obviously, because I kill myself in Fallout 76 all the time with this too. Bethesda games are just special. And this one, it's very much in its DNA a Bethesda game. But if you've ever played any Fallout, even Skyrim, and you look at the character models and how the AI and the NPCs and everything acts in this game, it is far and above better than anything I think that Bethesda's put out from their line, not from Arcane. Arcane's my favorite studio, so I'm a little bit biased. Plus, their games are just, uniquely their own. But the colors in this game are gorgeous, and I can't wait. I've seen some screenshots of other planets and other locations. I saw Paul Tassi put one up today of a planet that had snow with pine trees, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen anything like that. And it's just when you go to different locations, even if you don't have a jetpack, you feel those differences in the gravity, and that's really cool. It's these heavily defined details and the care that Bethesda puts into that kind of stuff that really brings an overall appreciation for what they do. The inventory management system it's a bit tough. It does. I 100% agree with everyone. It takes a little bit getting used to. And you will quickly learn that you don't need to pick up your 42nd vacuum tube or, your 38th roll of duct tape, because you already have all of that. You don't need to pick it up anymore, and it's just going to take up space.
But I need that.
But and in the beginning you do need that, right? But as you learn and things like that, you need less of those resources, less of those materials. The one other thing that Colt talked about in his video today, which I do highly recommend everybody going and watching that, when you build an outpost, you can go dump all of your stuff at the outpost and save it there. And if you're on another planet, you're in another system, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you go to a crafting table, whatever it's called in Starfield, a crafting table, it will draw resources from all of those other outlets or outposts. You don't need to have them with you or have them on your ship where you're at. They're all interconnected, and that's a huge win. I don't know. I love it. I like having endless tasks and menial things and accomplishing things like that, because just like Rand talked about, you never know what that's going to trigger, right? And like in Fallout 76, there's this thing that I've been saying, and you chase it, it just comes to you. It's called Insult Bot. And you'll be walking along minding your business, and all of a sudden this robot comes up and just roasts you mercilessly, like just horribly insulting you, drops a note in your inventory about how much you suck, and walks away and leaves you in your life. And you can't spawn that. You can't trigger it. It is just something that happens to you. And I'm waiting to find the thing in Starfield that is a similar thing to that. And I definitely took hero worship, and I've already, laughed my tail off at my adoring fan at least 3 times. I am going to post every ridiculous adoring fan clip on Twitter. So if you want to see stupid adoring fan things, and remember the game is procedurally generated, right? So what I get is probably going to be different than what Pete gets or what Riskit. I don't know. Did you take hero worship? You did.
Yeah,
right?
I did, only because I'm streaming the game every day. I'm going to do a stream every day, just for Starfield and the Cure Cancer, and for Game on Cancer as well. Well, same thing. And I did it because I thought it would be funny, and then I may kill him, and I may do it in such a way that it may be a little bit not good for YouTube, but I have plans. I have plans for my annoying fan. He doesn't know yet.
It's okay. I told Pete I can't wait to kill him eventually.
You all are terrible people. I want you to know.
But I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah.
All he
But
did
I'm
was
gonna
love
keep him
you.
around.
He's annoying already.
He's so funny. He's so funny. I've already
All he
posted a
did was
couple-
love you, and you're gonna murder him in cold blood on some isolated planet.
But it's a little creepy. It's a little creepy, man. And I have
It's
a
a
feeling
lot
it's going to get
creepy.
worse the
Yeah.
longer you go. And I can't wait. He's already told me he watched me sleep and blew dust off of my face or something like that, right?
Yeah,
I posted
did he
that
tell
clip
you that?
today. Yes. So I posted that clip today, and it was like, how dare this dust, come into your space and land on you, right? So, yeah, that's Bethesda, and I love it. it feels like a nice warm hug when I play these games. So that's my rant about
That's
it.
a beautiful way to put it.
That is a beautiful way to put it. A little creepy as well. That's also a little bit creepy, being hugged by a computer game.
Then I'm
But
good company then, huh?
guys, I do want to move on to the next topic. And it was Jeremy Merchant who got the code. And hopefully you've linked your Twitter, or I'll drop the invite to the Discord. Or he said he's going to send me a DM, and we will send you the Constellation Edition code after the show. We do have one more code to give out. We'll do that soon. But we have one or two more topics. I think we've got a couple more topics here. Before we do move on, please hit the like button. If you're new here, subscribe. We go live 8 p.m. EST every Friday. And we've got Shane Bailey with us from Game On Cancer, which is absolutely fantastic. And all your super chats. And just this is going to come out of my pocket. You guys are killing me. You can click the link up the top there and donate there. But I can't actually access the super chats because I've been lazy, I guess, and I haven't got an accountant to sort that international bullshit out. But the super chats have been rolling in with Alvin with the $10 super chat. He said, "Pocket this, bro. I don't do charity." Well, you do now. Spartan661 with the $4.99. He says, "I donate my hair locks of love every few years. My locks rival Daniel McGee's. I call him Mr. McGee. He's younger than my grandma, passed long ago, and donating hair helps." Yeah. Look, I've lost a few family members to cancer, and that's why we're here today doing this stream. Alvin with the $10 super chat has had a change of heart. He says, okay, Spartan convinced me you can donate these both. Trying and failing to be a better person. Maybe one day. Alvin, you'll get there. Alvin, you are being a better person because he drops another $10 super chat. He says, "Don't put me in the running, though. Someone else could use it. Give this one also." I will do, man. You're an absolute champion. Spartan661 again with the $4.99. He says, "If you have the patience and the love to donate, you can. It is simple. If you have long hair, donate it. It will grow back. Thanks to Riskit for the biscuit." Yeah, my hair's grown back. My beard's back. It's back in town. And everyone seems to be really happy about that. I think it's because of my ugly chin. I don't know what it is, but people seem to be. They just love the bearded. I love the bearded men.
Suits you, bro. The answer was Christopher Weaver as well.
Oh, yeah, it was Christopher Weaver. And I saw someone say it wasn't specific. Yeah, but the original founder was Christopher Weaver, and then I believe he brought what's his name, Robert. Someone on not long after.
Yeah, Robert Altman. Yeah.
Robert Altman. I believe he brought him on not long after. Do you want to do the other code now, or we may as well.
Let's go. Let's do it now, bro.
Okay. So
everyone ready?
Everyone get ready.
On T-pads.
Get your answers ready. This is a tough one, and a lot of people got this wrong. Even the guys on the panel here were getting this wrong, and I had to look it up. And it's a really interesting. You wouldn't think it is what it is, but what was Bethesda's first ever title? The first game that Bethesda ever released, what was their first title? First person to get it, you will win a code for Starfield. We will move on to the next topic. And I'm definitely going to jump to Shane on this one because I'm interested to know where sort of Shane sits on this, being within the business and where he thinks this decision may have come from. It may be a little bit X-body, but I really think this is terrible. So PlayStation's dropped another price rise for their PS Plus subscription. We've just recently heard, I think it was a few weeks back, that when they released their earnings, that they weren't doing too well with their subscriptions service, and it seems to combat that. They have raised the price on the back of releasing Saints Row in the PS Plus subscription. Now, I mean, this is just a bit of a sort of a terrible thing to say, and I think I'll probably annoy people on Twitter with this, but I mean, we got Starfield, they got Saints Row on a price rise. That's not, I don't understand this business tactic. I don't understand. Boom, Papa Bucko. I think he just got it. He just got it was Gridiron. Exactly that. That was their first game. Papa Bucko.
Of Us. Yeah. PC pre-patched.
Shane, look, I'm just curious, man. What did you think about this? What do you, as a business, being within the business of games, you've been around the industry for a while. Where do you think this sort of comes from? Did you think this is an odd choice for PlayStation to then tack a price rise on top of I wouldn't say failing subscription, but a subscription that's losing its subscribers, and then to release Saints Row as a thank you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't note the subscriber numbers at the last quarterly report. Is that right?
Oh yes, they dodged it, but we believe that they're declining, and that would be why.
Right. Okay. Cool. It's just weird because I've kept an eye on PlayStation Plus numbers over the years, and like that they'll fluctuate up and down. So even if they slightly dip, they're usually open about communicating that. It's roughly floated around 46 to I think 49, 50 million over the years. So if they're hiding it, then that tells me that maybe it's dipped a lot lower than that. Look, I mean, price rises aren't totally unpredictable, right? Like I've been doing this for their games and their hardware, and the cost of everything is going up. So I guess it's not entirely surprising. I'm just surprised at the amount they're raising it by, and whoever decided on this timing it's just stupid. Like the one thing that you can do to drive customers away from your platform or get them to second guess jumping into your platform is to heighten the barrier to entry, and you're doing it on the day that your competition's biggest game is launching. Like they're raising the price on September 6th. So do this after Spider-Man. Wait a month. Wait until you have this banger out the door and you have all this positive sentiment, and then give everyone their medicine. So look, it's not entirely unpredictable that they were going to raise the price. I just really question the timing, and also the amounts. Like you would think that they would just incrementally do it. I think if they just said, look, all tiers are going up $10 a year, then everyone would be like, oh, okay, like that's sucks, but I guess that's the way of the world right now. Subscription services are always raising their prices, and $10 a year is less than $1 a month, right? So I would just question the timing. I think it was stupid of them, like probably the worst timing they could possibly have picked, and the extent to which they raised the prices. I think do it $10 now and then $10 again in 12 months, and I think this becomes much less of a story.
Yeah, it's it is weird timing, right? Like I couldn't think of the worst thing to do at the worst time other than this. Papa Bucko says he was way too old. He said, I'm super old, so it wasn't fair. I remember that. Pick someone to give that to, please. Papa, are you sure? We'll do it. I'll do another question. I'll hunt one down right now and do another question. And I think that's the only fair way to do it. So if you're not down for the code, just say yes.
You can just give it to someone, Papa.
Yeah,
to be honest, bro.
Absolutely. You could do that as well. Let us know what you want to do. I'll keep an eye in the chat
we
there.
can come up with an even crazier question for you all to win it.
That's what I was thinking. But let us know what you want us to do, Papa. It's your code. Blue. I know that you're a long-time supporter and lover of PlayStation and always have been. And I wanted to get your opinion on what you think your beloved. No, I'm only kidding. Blue obviously loves all gaming, but what do you think of this move for PlayStation? Like super weird, right?
For the record, I still have an original PS1, a PS2, a 4, and a 5. I don't have a 3. Okay. They're collecting. They are collecting dust mostly, but I have them. Damn it. I am one of those people who pays the base tier every year because I can't be bothered to put a dongle in the thing and pull my saves down. I think that is just asinine that your saves are tied to you paying that yearly fee. But $60 a year is like whatever, right? So when I fire it up a couple times a year, it's all there. I don't have to worry about it. It's all just functional. But honestly, $80 a year, I think I might just have to lose those saves. It's not that critical to me. I don't see myself. I platinumed Horizon and don't really think I'm going to ever go back and put myself through that again. I don't know, man. It's really tone deaf when it's not, well, we're raising the prices by, I think it was like an average of like 35%. We're going to raise the prices and that's it. It's not, and then we're going to add, because at least the Game Pass core has those 25 games, right? And they're very nice curated games, and they will be rotated in and out, add a little more, add a little less, but better quality, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas this has nothing. right? I mean, I don't really know what else you get besides the online connectivity and the saves with that base tier. So asking $80 for that is probably just not something I'm willing to
Well, I
do,
mean,
and it's
they
really
got
disappointing.
they got Saints
Go ahead.
Row, right?
Which I'll never play. But and to be fair, right, I do go in every month and look at what those games are, and I gotta say, PlayStation does give some pretty good games away. A lot of months, and so I add those to my library, but I don't know. I'm probably not the right demographic for it because I enjoy the Xbox ecosystem more. I'm happy to have my PlayStation, but it is just really unfortunate that I bought the damn VR2 and I've never even taken it out of the box, right? And so there's wasted money. And now I've paid for this year. And I don't think I've turned it on. Matter of fact, my PlayStation would randomly turn itself on. So I unplugged it. And it hasn't been plugged in several months. So that says a lot to myself, right, about my spending for PlayStation. So anyway, it's a lot of money, and they're not offering a caveat, like a carrot and a stick thing here, right? Like, well, we're going to raise you 20, 30, $50, but here's a day and date game, or here's a promise that every game after 6 months will come to our service, or anything like that, right? To sort of give you a little bit of sweet with the vinegar. So it's just not for me.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints Row is pretty sweet, right?
I saw the cringe dialogue, and I won't be participating in any of that, but more power to everyone who wants to.
Look, Umbra, while I frantically search for a really hard Bethesda question, what are your thoughts on PlayStation just bumping up the price of PS Plus, and exactly like she said, what we're offering nothing.
I mean, I think it's a big fat zero and a steaming dump on the chest of PlayStation gamers, and I say that because if you all remember, I gave Xbox heat, and all of us did when they tried to do that for gold. I gave them heat. I'm talking about more recently that you would know, when they did this switch to Game Pass and they took away a perk from us, but they're still charging us more. So I would be, wrongheaded, or at least not lack the same energy, as they say, for not calling PlayStation out for doing something that I think is pretty anti-consumer. You have here one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game to launch right now with Starfield, and officially on the 6th. And then you have on that same day, PlayStation raising their prices by what, 30 some odd dollars. And yeah, you're not offering day and date. We've complained about the lack of day and date here many times in the past, me, you, Pete. And to not offer that, but to charge even more than what Xbox is charging with no day and date is ridiculous. And that's no shade because I prefer Xbox or anything else. It's just not worth that. And I think PlayStation, I would have said something like maybe they're shooting themselves in the foot. But if you go online, the vocal majority are defending it on the PlayStation side.
They are not. I haven't seen it. They are not.
I've seen a few, and there are a few who I know, for instance, like BG, Broken Games, who always calls that out, and I'll give him his credit. But there have been a few who literally try to push it on Xbox. I'm not joking when I say that. They've blamed Xbox for it, or they said it's fine, right? Now, there are some. I think this one right here divided them more than some, but there are still some defending it. And I think that's the bigger problem here, in that a lot of PlayStation gamers, even with the $70 price hike, which I largely place the blame on Sony, and I've said that before, I place it on Sony, and I place it on their gamers for accepting it and pushing that as a standard that everybody else could support in the industry, because that's what the industry wanted to do. They wanted to charge us more. So,
hey, Umbra.
Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt you,
right.
but that right on the back of the Portal fiasco, bro, $400 for an LCD screen with a mediocre paddles on the side.
Yeah, well, 200, right? I believe it is.
Well,
But
400 because you got to get the Bluetooth.
oh yeah, that's
earbuds.
right. That's true. If you use
Mm-hmm.
if you get the Bluetooth and of course you have to have a PlayStation 5 to use it. So either way, it's much more than that, right? So you're right. And that's another thing. On top of that, they give a mediocre device with the PlayStation Portal when it could have just really, honestly, being honest, just made another PSP, like a PSP 2 or something, or 3, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, a new Vita or something. Vita.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, that device at all.
Yeah, I get it, like the streaming part, but that's not even Sony's strong suit right now. And I don't think that their audience is really ready for that. But yeah, I just think that this right here is just a slap to the face because they're not offering day and date. They're not giving their fans and their fan base and consumers a real reason to support something like that. So I wonder if it's going to backfire on them or not. I know that I've read reports about subscriptions going kind of stagnant lately from both Xbox and PlayStation. But I have to imagine that if you look at both services and you see the games dropping on Game Pass this year, including what I still feel is going to be, obviously a Game of the Year contender in Starfield, and then you look at Sony and what they're offering and not giving you on that same type of comparative service in whatever way, no backward compatibility, nothing.
Cloud
think
saves.
it's cloud saves back behind that paywall. All of that is just anti-consumer nonsense right there, and I don't see how anybody could support it. I really don't. I wonder how it's going to, the bottom line for Sony, how it's going to affect them. That's what I'm wondering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely. You would imagine it's already dropped out the arse, and they're probably going to drop further down. Before we go to Pete on this topic, we do have another question because Papa Barco graciously decided to forego the code and pass it on to someone else. So Shane from Game on Cancer here came up with a really good one. Mine probably you guys wouldn't have gotten. And I'll drop that one in the chat later on to see if you guys do get it. But the new question for the Starfield code is, how much did the infamous horse armor DLC cost in Oblivion? US dollars. Go. Whoever gets the answer first wins the code. Pete, what's your take on PlayStation just bumping up prices at this really odd and strange time?
On the eve of the biggest game to drop on Xbox Game Pass probably ever. One of the biggest new IPs, of an acquisition that was made a couple of years ago, pretty much for this game, and obviously games going into the future. I just don't understand what PlayStation's doing. I really don't. The discrepancy couldn't be more stark. And if you just look at Game Pass in September, we got Starfield, we've got Lies of P, we've got Party Animals, we've got Payday 3. That's just September, guys. I mean, the difference couldn't be any more stark. And okay, fine. What did PlayStation show in the showcase to warrant this price rise? I mean, I just didn't see it. I don't see an outlay of a roadmap that is deserving of this price hike. And that off the back of what Umbra and Holly was saying about the PlayStation Portable and the ridiculous price for that. It doesn't look good to me. I can't believe anybody on Twitter is defending this move. I didn't like it when Xbox raised the prices, but I could understand that they just made the Activision acquisition and they were, from that we're going to be getting Call of Duty and all these other games dropped into Game Pass, so I could understand it. This I just don't understand.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's very, very, very weird. Congratulations to Jesse P for winning the horse armor was $2.50. You guys will never get the one that I had come up with, but it's a really interesting one to have on the eve of, and we'll sort of see if you guys get it on throughout the intros, because I think that is it for our topics today. But my question was, what massive sci-fi IP does Bethesda own the IP, the franchise IP for, that they've never made a game for? It's a massive sci-fi franchise, and they have the rights to it. Shane Bailey, fantastic, man. Look, we love having you on the show. You're very knowledgeable about everything inside the industry, and you've worked inside the industry for quite some time. It's always great to hear your takes. A very even, very knowledgeable, very insightful, and really appreciate everything that you do for cancer and cancer research. And if you can just let everyone know what it is again, just in case they missed it, they weren't here, what it is you guys do for cancer research across the world. And then, just let people know where they can find you. And if you do want to find any one of our guests, you can head down in the description. And also, if you want to find the Game on Cancer websites or anything there and donate or want to get involved in some way, you can head over there and check them out. Shane.
Thanks, Riskit. Yeah, appreciate you having me on again. It's always a blast. Like I said in our little guest chat here, I don't have the time to do my own podcast anymore. So coming on the show is a real treat, and I always love talking games with your community. So Game on Cancer is an initiative of Cure Cancer, the charity that I work for. We, my little team, their job is to unite the gaming community in all of its forms and fundraise as much as we can to support and help kickstart new ideas to cure cancer. Our charity funds researchers from all over the world. We're cancer agnostic as well, so we fund projects that are focused on all different types of cancer, not just specific types. Yes, and we've been around for 50 years. You can see, learn more, about all of the projects we've funded in the past and some of the global breakthroughs that our charity has helped achieved by these amazing scientists on our website, curecancer.com.au. If you want to learn more about the gaming side, though, gameon_cancer on Twitter and gameoncancer.com.au. Thank you again to everyone who has donated to Riskit's fundraiser here and to any of the other fundraisers as well. Big shout out to the Bethesda ANZ team again for helping us put this one together. We're already over $12,500 raised, and the campaign is running all month long, and there's plenty more planned for it as well. So, if you'd like to follow me, it's Shane Bailey on Twitter is where you can find me. But thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. And I always love coming on the show.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to have you back again. And again, guys, if you want to find those links, they're all down in the description. If you do want to donate directly to the cause, the link is pinned at the top of the chat. So you can just click on that and then click on the link and then come on back for Umbra's outro. How's your week looking, man? How's things? Another fantastic show. We'll be playing Starfield, I imagine, for the foreseeable future.
Yes, sir. I feel like after 12 hours, I've only scratched the surface of this game, honestly speaking. And I'm at least on a fourth mission, but I haven't really done a lot, in my opinion. No shipbuilding, no outpost making. I did one, but it wasn't really anything. And I have a lot to do. So definitely going to be on this for the rest of this year, probably. Good show. Thank you, Shane, for joining us as well, brother. Appreciate having you on always. And of course, your cause, of course, with the For the Cancer charity is absolutely dope. And I will as well have Shane on my show on is it the 21st that we came to?
Yes,
Shane, I believe?
Can't wait.
Yeah. So absolutely same. And I want to make sure to honor that well and to try to get as many people to donate to this worthy cause as I can. So I'm going to be advertising it soon. And thank you guys, of course, my panel members and hosts. Riskit, as much as we poked and prodded him today about this being my show, which I understand why people came to that logical conclusion.
Our show.
It's not logical.
Much love to you all. You know how I love you guys. But yeah, this was a good show, man. I'm excited to get back to Starfield. I'm not going to lie to you. This, honestly went longer than it should have because we should be in Starfield now. No, I'm joking. Good show today. Love the discussion. And congrats to all those who won codes and such and passed the love on to others to get a code.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fantastic show, and you definitely should head over to Umbra's channel. It's down in the description, of course, and you can link it up in the chat there. Head over to subscribe and keep an eye out for the Game on Cancer streams that he'll be doing later in the week. JediKnightPete, another fantastic show, another fantastic week for Xbox on the up and up. Starfield released, I can see that you'll be in there for quite some time.
Yeah, can't wait to get back into Starfield. Had a great time playing it yesterday. Couldn't play it as much as I would like, but hopefully I can get into it this week. Thank you, Shane. What you're doing for the community is amazing, brother. And anytime you want to come on this show, please just shout out to us. You are welcome. at all times. Also want to thank Thor for coming on. I know we couldn't stay till the end, but his takes are always fantastic. Thank you, Umbra, Riskit, Holly. Always enjoy talking game with you guys. Thank you to Papa Bocco72. What you did was just really kind, and it's kind of what I love about this community. And congratulations to who won? Jesse P and
Jeremy Merchant.
Jeremy Merchant. Go play some Starfield.
Yeah, guys, hit us up in the chat. And Jesse P, I'm pretty sure you're on Twitter. Just hit me up in a chat, and I'll keep an eye out for you guys, and we'll get those codes across to you. If you are in America and you're not sure how to download Aussie codes and make them work on your machine, I'll also go through the explanation to that as well. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's not terrible. It's pretty easy to do. Blue, another fantastic show. I believe this is your second as a full-time. So awesome second show, man. Fantastic to have you here. I really appreciate you saying yes. And so please let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to in the following week, and how your week's looking.
Yeah. Happy Labor Day weekend to all the Americans listening. It's a 3-day weekend for us, and I took Tuesday and Wednesday off so I could just binge Starfield for a couple days and stay home and enjoy it. So I'll be playing that, and I'll also, of course, be in Fallout 76 for a little bit every day. If anybody wants to know about that game, I can't talk good enough about it, so let me know. But thank you, Shane. You're just an awesome guest, and I already am excited for the next time that you come on, and all of the great work that you're doing. It's just really appreciated by probably way more people than you'll ever know. So
thanks, Blue. Thanks everyone.
Chat. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, chat. And thanks for being here. Thanks for Rand popping by and giving us his impressions on Starfield since he's been through it. And I'm really excited to go find that ship with the gravity popping back and forth. Like, that's now my new mission, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I want to find that. That sounds really cool. So until next week. Yeah.
I think that sort of ruins it a little bit for Rand, because he's like, I'm the only one that's done that mission. But as soon as I've done it, he's getting a text immediately. Say, Rand, you're not the only one. It just sounded cool though, right? It sounded really cool. I didn't give my thoughts on Starfield this week because I really haven't played enough to form an opinion. A very basic one. So look, do guys jump in the streams. I'll be streaming all week at 9:30 a.m. EST time. All for Game on Cancer, and you'll just watch me fumble my way through the game. It's been an absolutely fantastic week. You guys chat, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you for everyone who super chatted. Thank you to everyone who donated. We really appreciate every single one of you coming through and supporting us every week. I am still taken aback that anyone wants to come and watch our little podcast. And again, I can't thank any of you enough, and all the guys in the panel and our amazing guest Shane. And we will see you all, I believe, next week.
Later, guys.
Bye.